Okay everybody, we are working on the Polaris today. Hopefully these footages are right. We've got lights put in the shed and the LEDs, and I don't know how they're going to affect the footage or not. Yeah, I'll talk about that in another video. Anyway, so what I'm doing is got the Polaris back in. As you'll know, you've been following along on the channel. We did a full rebuild on the engine and a little bit of other work on it. You'll remember that we thought the muffler was blocked. We cut the end off, cleaned it, put it back together. Now Mum's been using it and she's been thinking that it's been lacking power, and we thought it might have been the muffler. So I took it for a bit of a ride last weekend and was driving it. And when you're taking off slowly, it seems to not have power. It was like a clutch was slipping, but these don't have like a normal clutch. They're a belt driven operation. So went home, did a bit of research, and from what I could sort of find, it sounded like the belt was slipping or there was an issue there with the clutch. So we're going to try and replace that drive belt, and hopefully that will eliminate that loss of power. But it also came down to the sort of the way we're riding it. We need to ride a little bit harder for it to work properly. So today we're going to replace the drive belt. I've also got those bottom control arm bushes that I was talking about replacing way back in when we were rebuilding it. If you haven't seen that series and you're interested, I'll put a card up. I've also got the ignition coil and spark plug, because the one that's on there isn't a Polaris one and it's rubbing against the head and we don't want it to melt, so I bought a new one of those. And what else did I get? I think that's about it. I have to check my parts back. Yeah, that was it. I also just bought some oils for when I do the gear, when I do the oil change on it. It's still a few hours away from having the oil changed on it. So when I do that, it'll be all new oil in the engine. Got some for the gearbox and the front axle, and there'll be a new filter as well, so I bought that as well. So what I'll do is, you know, the sort of drill with it, I'll rip all the seat in the back, this back guard off. Also got to pull the bottom step off on the left side, this one here, because we need to pull this cover off to get to the drive belt. So pull the seat off, pull this off, pull that step off, and we should be able to get good access to there. And we'll have to pull this wheel off anyway to do the bushes, but we'll pull it off so we get good access to the drive belt to make life a bit easier. So I'll come back to you when I've got all the plastics and the seat stripped down, and then we'll pull that wheel off and pull the cover off the drive belt, and then we can make a start on trying to get that belt off, and I'll sort of explain how you go about that. It seems pretty simple. I've never done it. It seems pretty simple though. So hopefully all goes good. All right, as you see, I've got the back cover off on this step as well as this wheel. We'll have to pull the other side off to do the bottom bushes, which are in there, is what I'm talking about. She's a bit muddy. I did wash it, but yeah, she's pretty caked. So what I'm gonna do is pull that big cover off that you just seen, and that'll reveal the belt. And then we'll have a go at trying to get it apart. I've got some photos of the manual. It doesn't explain too much, it just says sort of pull one of the drives off and go from there. But we'll have a crack at trying to get it apart and see how it goes, and hopefully it's not too bad. And then yeah, we'll try and get that new belt on there. Now in this end there's a bearing that we have to pull off, so she might be a little bit of a struggle to get off. I'll have to get a screwdriver in there. Alright, got that cover off. It was a bit of a struggle. Just getting stuck on that little dowel. Must have been a little bit corrosion on it. Got it off eventually, it was no drama. So here's the CVT belt, drive belt, whatever you want to call it, the clutches. This is basically them. So That's pretty much what they look like there. yeah, so anyway, so this is the old belt, obviously. Doesn't look too bad, like there's no, like, doesn't seem to be too many cracks. It looks like some slight splits in there, so it's probably is ready. So this belt would probably be 13 years old. We've never had it replaced. So a bit of dust and whatnot in there. You can see all the rubber. All that rubber in the bottom's rubber that's worn off over time because the cover's never been off. So it probably is due to be replaced. And yeah, the manual says to check the measurement against a new belt. Got a new belt there, but unfortunately the manual doesn't give you a measurement, so that's sort of odd that they don't give you a measurement in case you don't have a new belt. So it's pretty dumb, but it doesn't matter, we're replacing the belt regardless. Have a look at getting this clutch apart. I'll sort of explain how that comes apart. You're meant to have a special tool to hold it together, because I'll explain how it works, but basically you're meant to have this little tool to hold together, but the manual also says you can just do it with your hands and hold it with your hands. So that's how we're going to do it, because there's no way in hell I'm getting this tool. So for those who don't know how like a CVT or belt-driven bike, there's like a lot of machines do run this style sort of drive. For those who don't really understand how it works, so this runs straight off your crank, this part here, where the clutch is, the throwout clutch, and there's your drive to your gearbox. So what happens is, in neutral as it's now, the belt, you'll see, is just sort of sitting in between these two wedges. Well, like the, yeah, round wedges, I guess you call them. And that, it's not clamping it. So this will, when started up, will spin, and this will just slide over the top, I'm pretty sure. So what will happen is when you put it into gear and then you rev, this will spin faster, and in here there's rollers. Those rollers will throw the clutch out and will squeeze these two together, which will then squeeze the belt. And the tighter they squeeze, the more the belt will, its running surface will come out wider, and that means it'll spin this faster, and that's getting your drive. So basically they squeeze the belt together, that expands the running surface of the belt, and that in turn drives that, and the more that squeezes it and expands the belt, the faster that will go. So that's just sort of a basic layman's terms of how that sort of works. There's probably videos explaining a bit better than that. But yeah, that's sort of the basics. So we'll try and get this belt off now and try and get the new one on. So we need to undo this big nut here, hold this clutch together and try and slide it off, and then the belt will just be able to pull off the shaft. And yeah. There's also a bearing down in the cover you need to inspect. That one seems alright, I was just having a look at it before. Should go again, hopefully. Yeah, so we'll clean it up a bit, and then we'll pull that clutch assembly off and try and get the belt on there. Before I go any pulling this off, I just wanted to talk about the marks on here. So there's an X there, X there. I'm pretty sure the manual does say about lining them up, but because this does spin sort of free independently of that, I'm not really sure why they want you to, but just sort of get them close. That's what I'm doing. Get them close and just try and put them back in the same spot. And then, yeah, it should be all right. But yeah, we'll try and get this clutch off now. Okay, now we've got that off. Try and pull this apart. Now just try and hold your clutch all together. You don't want the rollers to fall out. You know what, actually I might make... Oh, no, that'll be right. I might actually make a mark with a texter, because that's splined. I can put it back exactly on where it goes. So I'll just make a little mark on the splined area. Exactly where it went. And then we won't have any dramas when we put it back together. So we'll know exactly. So holding the clutch all together, because there's rollers in here we don't want to fall out. We'll just gently pull this off, just like that. So here's the clutch and its surface there, all the rubber falling out of it. I'll sit that down over here. So now we've got this apart. We can try and slide. There's a spacer here, a roller, whatever you want to call it, that this slides over the shaft. Pull that off. And we'll try and get the belt off. It might be easier said than done. There we go. So that's the belt off. Alright, so I'm just looking at the belt here. I've got it turned inside out. I'm just sort of checking in the grooves here if there's any cracks. There are some starting to happen. It's not, the belt's not worn to the point where it's going to fly apart and break apart. But looking at the sides here, I've just been going along it. There are areas that are worn a lot more than others. You can see here it's just black. Then you can start to see the strings there. So it's sort of like it's worn in and out like that. Like going like in and out like that. Just where it's gripping from slowing down, speeding up, etc. So regardless, it probably does need to be done anyway. But it's not like it's dangerous. It's not going to fly apart and have the motor, have you like lose drive. So that's pretty much the belt off and ready for the new one. Alright, so I just pulled the top of the clutch off so you can sort of understand how it works. So here's the insides of it. Here's the top part. So what happens is, at just normal, it'll be spinning around. These rollers will just be sitting down in the bottom. When you rev it up, these rollers will roll out like so, and they'll push against the top of the clutch, and that'll expand against that nut and push this whole side in against the belt, which will be there. Push it hard against there, and it'll start to run out further and further to make that run faster. So that's just sort of insides, and that's how it sort of works. These rollers will roll out with the more centrifugal force that there is. That's basically how it works. So yeah, we'll reassemble this and put the belt on now. Alright, so I've got the new belt here. So we'll try and get it on. Might be a little bit of a challenge. Because obviously it's going to be a bit tighter than the other one. I'm not sure how we're going to go here. Might have to spin it around to get it to run on there. There we go. Put that back like that. Get that time mark back over here. Hopefully that's alright. Couldn't imagine why it wouldn't be, but who knows. So now we'll put our spacer / roller back on. Just clean it up, make sure there's no gunk or anything on it. I want everything to be dry in here. Don't put any sprays or lubricants, because it will, things will bind up. Everything needs to be spotless. Just really clean, no corrosion or anything in there. I've got to get this over. Alright. That's on there now. Alright, so the belt's on. Make sure there's no stuff on it. You also want to check these plates. If there's any uneven wear, it can cause the belt to slip or catch on it. But I think we're pretty safe at the moment. I was worried that these might be worn and we'd have to get new ones, but they seem pretty good. So I think we've saved ourselves some drama there, so that'll be alright. Now we can chuck this clutch back on. So you can see we're check this side as well. There's no marking on here, so that's all good. There's this bush in here as well. You can also inspect for looseness, but it's pretty good. So we'll get it all back on. Try and line it up in the same spot, which that is there. Now we'll put the nut on, wherever the hell I put that, up here. Now it was Loctited on, so I'll get a dab of Loctite, put on here, and I think the, don't take me word for it, but I think the tension was about 160 Newton meters, I'm pretty sure. So we'll get that on there. So I'll chuck some Loctite on there, chuck that back on, tension her up, and then we can put the cover back on. Alrighty, got the clutch done up. It's all good. I just span it around a few times. Seems to be pretty good. Sounds like she's gripping a little bit better too by the sounds of it. So we'll have to run this and get the belt warmed up as well. Running the engine and warming the belt up on cold days is another way to avoid these belts wearing out. Apparently in the manual it says let it warm up and give it a few decent revs. That'll get a bit of heat in here, make it a little bit more malleable and a bit of better grip on the plates. So now that that's done, we can put the cover back on. There's a rubber seal that runs in along there because this has to be a watertight area. These two big pipes up here are breathers for it. If you ever do really deep water that can get up into there, you're meant to pull the drain out of the cover and drain any water out. You don't want any water in there. It'll cause slipping and corrosion and just dramas. Luckily for us, it's never leaked, so it's been alright. So we'll put a new seal on, get the cover on. And then, yeah, I'll start, actually might do the coil first. I'll do the coil up on the head and the new spark plug lead, get that done, and then we'll work on these bushes. So I'll whack this back on and then, yeah, we'll move on. Right, cover's all back on, sealed up nicely. Yeah, just did those bolts up fairly tight, I guess. I was going to replace the coil, but I need a Torx bit piece to undo the screw that holds it on, and I don't have one. I'm just waiting for Dad to get back from the supermarket. So what I'll do is I'll tackle these lower control arm bushes. So just the same as last time. Just undo the bolt down here, and I might try and just lift that up. Or lower that down. No, I'll have to lift it up, I think, to get access to the bushes and try see if I can get away without pulling the hub off. If it's not going to work, I'll just have to pull the hub off and do it that way. But we'll see how we go. Pull the main bolt out. Easy enough. Ah, yeah, we should be able to just pull the bushes out like this. Just jam something under there to hold it up. Let's give her a little bit of a wipe so I can see the bushes. It's got another one of those spacers in there. It just came out with the bush, so they can just come out, which is fine. Alright, got both the bushes out. It was a bit tougher to get out. So now we can install our new ones. So I've slipped one bush on the roller, or the spacer, and slide that back in into the hub. Give her a tap in with the rubber mallet. Put the other bush on the other side. give this bottom area of the control arm a clean out as well. Just make sure there's no dirt and crap in the way. The bolts in there, we'll just do her up and then this side will be done. Alright, this side's all finished now. We can chuck the wheel back on and I'll do the other side. So I've still got to grease this one here. So I'll grab a grease gun, grease that bottom control arm, and then I'll do the other side. So when I've done that, once I've done that, I'll join back up with you and we'll do the coil and get the covers all back on and hopefully should be done. Alright, so as you can see, got it all back together. Everything's on, the rear bush is done, put the new coil on. I'm going to fire it up now and see it should drive. It is currently raining, as you can probably hear, so I might have to wait until this sort of dies down a little bit and we'll take it for a spin and see what it's like, what it takes off like, and just compare it, make sure that she's all good. So we'll start her up, let it warm up, and then I'll take it for a spin after. Took the bike for a ride. Dad's just going to jump on it now and take a ride, see what he reckons. Seems just, it's a little bit slow taking off still, but if you really give it to it, it seems to like really take a hold and want to rip off. So Dad's going to take it for a drive and see what he reckons. I think it's definitely better, that's for sure. Okay, so Dad just took a drive. He reckons it's way better. He was just saying then that he went out yesterday, was it? To feed. Yeah, he took some salt blocks out. How many? We had 5, he reckons, so 3 on the back, 2 on the front. And he reckons that's obviously carrying a bit of weight, but he reckons it like grabs a lot harder now and seems to drive a bit harder. But obviously, we'll let Mum make the final decision whether or not it's better, because she rides it every day and she'll know. But yeah, I think we're pretty happy with how it sits just at the moment. So we'll come back to it again probably next week or the week after. Mum's almost done the 20 hours that it takes to break in the engine, and then I'll change out the engine oil, the front axle oil, and the gearbox and rear axle oil, and just give it a quick look over. Not that I really need to do much because it's had so much work done to it, but yeah, we'll come back and check it again. So we'll leave this video here. Hopefully it sort of pans out to be a quick little short one, and we'll finish up. So thanks for watching, everybody. We'll catch you in the next one. All right.